what your choices have been and what karmic timelines and contracts you have journeyed. The light is calling for the reunification of all aspects of life in this realm now. It is calling for the cleansing of all polarities. It is calling for the rising of all sacred heart centers now. All are being summoned home to the greater light now.
Hi, and welcome to Whole Soul Mastery, Sounds of Circles, Heart Sharing in the Round podcast, where we focus on mind, body, spirit, wellness, fitness, and wholeness, and integrating polarity within so we can access a greater light and unity consciousness. I'm Marie Moeller, and I'm an author, channel, and the host of the Whole Soul Mastery podcast series. And I'm here today with Delsol Etienne and David Fryer. Many of you might remember I podcasted a few weeks ago with Delsol, and David Fryer is a new amazing soul that I'm so glad you're joining me. Both of these wonderful beings are light workers, light warriors, and David Fryer is also, he's a musician, a sound healer, a water healer, and I'm so glad both of you can join me today. So welcome, David, and welcome, Delsol.
Welcome. Thank you. It was an honor.
Thank you. Yes.
It is an honor. And, you know, one of the things that we, all three of us, have in common is water, is a love for water. And I know, Delsol, when we podcasted together previously, you grew up on the water, right? You know,
Yes.
on an island. And I grew up on an island as well. And David has deep connections, you know, past life connections really with water. And so we're all, I think humanity is being called to reconnect with the vibrations and the gifts of water. And I thought, who better to start off this podcast conversation, this heart-centered sharing today, than to quote Masaru Emoto, who wrote the book, The Hidden Messages in Water. And I have two short ones here that I just want to share to sort of seed the energies of our connections. The first one was the memory of life arrived on this earth carried by the soul of water. From this memory, life awoke and the human being emerged. There's just a lot of beautiful energy in that one, right? And then the second one is water records information and while circulating throughout the earth, distributes information. This water sent from the universe is full of the information of life. And water is something that we just often, especially, you know, in some areas of the world, that we take for granted, right? You just turn on the faucet and you know, you expect it to be there and we go about our day, but there's such a living consciousness. And he even talks about the soul of water, right? The consciousness of water. And, you know, just either one of you, if you just want to share either how you feel from that or just connection with water, that just when did water start to become a more integral part of your life that you were conscious of the blessings of water?
I'll let David go first.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll share first. With water, I've always been conscious of it as far as getting the industrialization out of it and just not drinking the, you know, the fluoride and the treatment and with that. But I don't think I had really seen a connection with water until I had met up with you, Marie, and you kind of brought that out. And it really did speak to me on many levels. And it took a while, but I just started investigating and read Masaru Emoto's The Hidden Messages in Water, and just started connecting with water in my own way. And it really began to speak to me as I began to work with it. It was working with me. And so it does have carry frequency, and it does bring the messages from the higher energetic worlds, if you will.
Yeah.
It's right there. I think it even operates above. It carries consciousness that's way, like what we would call the 0 point,
Yeah.
where it's or the field, the 0 point field, where it's outside of time and space, and so it has all the memory of the pristine Earth, right? As it is, and as it will be again. So yeah, I mean, I connect with that. I work with it every day in a ceremony where I drink, and I thank it, just like Masaru Emoto prescribed. I do that actively and speak into it, and it carries the vibrations. I do actually use some frequencies after I clean it, so I go through a whole process of working with it, honoring it, just feeling into it, and then putting those intention into the water that will then go into my body and work with the cells of my body. But what I've really come to realize in working with the water is its connection, that it really is really reflective of the divine, because you can't grasp onto it, for one thing, right? You can consume it, but it's always moving. It's gonna, it's always changing, and so it's really beautiful in that. But the connection in the oneness of all that is, right? Because it is in everything. Our bodies are mostly water, and just how it operates in bringing forth the quantum world, or the quantum energies, into the material, or the manifest world, right? It seems to almost be like a bridge to that. And I'm not going to say that it's the only bridge, but it definitely is a bridge into into the unmanifest into the manifest, the divine into the world. So one thing that's really cool about it is, like, when you look at the structuring of water and how it structures and makes these beautiful geometric shapes, or hexagons, in all these different ways, just kind of like a snowflake, is that it structures on the good energies, on the positive energies, right? Now, the negative energy doesn't destructure that, but it does kind of like put it to where it's like, it's just not, it just becomes kind of meaningless and latent, right? And so it's really interesting that you're working with something and seeing the benefits of the positive, and just how it just kind of makes it ineffective in the with the negative energies, yeah. So it's really interesting, and then how the dynamic of how that works with our bodies, right? And so what I'm getting with that is that it makes you really mindful of your thoughts and your vibration, because you're constantly tuning your water, right? And so you feel it when you're working and you're experiencing these beneficial energies, and the powerful love of the universe. And then you get into a space of negativity, and you're doing a shadow session with yourself. Well, that water is reacting, right? And you feel in a way that the water has like this emotional connection to us as well. And into our emotions, is communicating, oh, this is not, you need to come out of that somehow and get back into where we like to be. Because I think really the water has a preference to be in beauty, and manifested in sacred geometry, and just just in a good expression, So that's kind of where I don't know why I went off on that tangent, but
It's so good. It's so good because it's, when you were talking, it's such a, there are many things that we can't really necessarily see evidence of or the illustration of, but because of Masaru Emoto's work, that you can literally see the recordings. And maybe I should back up, and then I want to hear from you, Delsol, is just to say that in his book Hidden Messages in Water, he was a scientist in Japan who, I can't remember how he got the guidance, but he put water on slides, and he said positive words to that water, and then he would look at the water and he would freeze it. I think he would actually freeze the water on the slides, and he would look at that. And like you said, positive words would have, positive words would create these beautiful, perfectly formed crystals that were just gorgeous. Of course, no two the same, but beautiful. And then if he would think or say or actually write words on paper and put it underneath it that were negative in nature, there were sort of these, I don't know if we'd say deformed, but not perfect snowflakes, basically, right? And you could see that outer reflection, that illustration through water of what's happening with our vibrational fields all the time. Those, malformed crystals from our malformed thoughts and feelings, right, are some of the experiences that we're having based on vibration. And it's just like where heart math is also, doing research and getting readings, and can illustrate vibration right now with their measurements and their tools. Same thing with water, is it shows us this. And I think I loved how you shared all of that, David, because it is showing us, and we are, I don't know, is it 80 or 90%? I don't know what the percent water we are, but it's a lot. We're made up of a lot of water. So what we're thinking about and flowing about and feeling about is forming those geometric shapes inside us. And that is creating our world, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Delsol, tell us a little bit about you and water.
Water, me and water. There is no separation with me and water. It's like, as long as I can remember, I've always been drawn to a part of the water. It is in me. I'm a part of it. And like, there is no separate. I can't see the separation. I'm always connected. I could be in the water for hours, and I could want to go to the bottom of the ocean. I could sit there for an eternity, and I could feel like just everything. You say the emotions that are connected to the water, it feels your emotions, it feels, and it senses the vibration. A few years ago when I was going through my storm, anytime I saw the water, it was always stormy. The waves was crashing. I was always fighting with the water. And that's where I knew that my emotions were out of balance and I needed to bring it into balance. Once I achieved that balance, there's an eternal calmness, and you can see the stillness of the water. It has the ability to be as hard as anything that you can ever encounter, but also has the ability to be as soft as anything that you ever encounter. It takes shape to whatever we want it to take shape of. It can completely engulf our being and become a part of us and be that protective layer around us. The water within our body has the ability to increase and change our vibrations at any given point in time based on our emotions, our thoughts, our connection with source. It's even stronger. And when we do that, we get a sense of the ability of the remembrance, where we remember. The water is as old as anything else in the universe. It flows. And I've been using the saying now, it's time to flow. The flow has arrived, and now it's the flow that's going to take us to where we need to be. And it's been said that Earth is now in its water cycle, and the water cycle is returned. And which says a great deal of what's going on. That the water's here as a cleansing tool, as a rebuilding, as the foundation for everything, where we actually can return. We have the ability to return to that 0 point that's within us. And once we do that, we'll have the eternal remembrance of who we are, where we've been, why we're here, how we can co-create telepathically, energetically, and all those other connections will then form other connections and deeper within that oneness of the universe, of the totality of who we are. Whew. It's
It's so expansive, right?
yes, it is. It's an expansive state, and it's once we have that bond and we take a deep breath and inhale, we feel the water flow within us, and then we connect and we exhale slowly, and then we can feel the entire. You say it's a bridge. I see it as a link, more of connection to our greater sense of being, our greater higher self, and return to that again, that 0 point of the totality, the vibration of the water. I connected with David a few nights ago, and he is a musician, and he played a short clip. And from the time he started playing it, I was just like, I just went and I was there. And it just changed the dynamics of the rest of my evening after that point. So it's the vibrations that we imbued within ourselves is coming out, and it's showing itself in the ability that we create and we magnify those healing properties within the water that's already been there. Water is as plain as anything you can see, but within it, microscopically, there's more to it. Multidimensionally, there's even more. And then when we look at the quantum level, we see this whole expansive universe that we have not even been able to touch. The entanglement of everything, where everything's connected. And I can see like these branches just going off of just like one little droplet of water. How the connectivity is just flowing from that one droplet.
Just
So we are a part of it as much as it's a part of us. It's a ebb and flow, the push and the pull. As the waves come, it takes it away. The new wave comes in and it goes back out. And it comes in. The new codes just come and go, just bringing us coming and coming and coming. And the effervescent flow of the water, it's here. And it's literally time to flow with the water.
yeah. Well, in this realm and the whole 3D experience that we're, rising up and through now is that, we are tapping into that interconnectivity again. And I think what you just said, basically, Del Sol, reminds me of the Rumi phrase, you're not a drop in the ocean, you're the ocean in a drop. And it is bringing us back to that interconnectedness that's beyond our mental mind's comprehension, but that's where you cross that bridge, or you follow that link, right, and you make the connection, a much higher dimensional connection. And that's what we're all vibing in. And that ebb and flow is that it's the pulse of the universe, right? It's the in breath and the out breath, and the water breathes like that too, right? It's extraordinary. And just in all of my transmissions that I bring through from the Arcturian Collective, they focus on the conscious breathing. But it's interesting, as we're talking, water is very similar in the, at least in the ebb and flow of water. And our days can be so busy. We have so many modern distractions and all kinds of things. The push and the pull of 3D life can take us off course. But if we can just, in a way, give ourselves just a few minutes, connecting at this deeper level doesn't require copious amounts of time. It's like you're not a drop in the ocean, you're the ocean in the drop. I find when I give myself 2 minutes to consciously breathe a day, it's like I just gave myself a 48-hour day. Like out of that 2 minutes, I just got double multi-dimensional time and I expanded. And then it's amazing the days that I just get going right from the get-go, and I might miss my, doing that, taking that moment, and I end up chasing time the rest of the day. Right. So I find water is sending another message to us right now in these connections of appreciating that water is life. And the other thing I was also feeling when both of you were talking was how I've read Masaru Emoto's Hidden Messages of Water, a while back, but I remember him talking about that the records and the energies of any creature that has ever lived in the oceans is recorded in the memories and the soul of water. Like the entire Earth's history exists in just one molecule, one drop of water contains all of that information, all of that knowing, and all of that interconnection. So even though we've been in a cycle of being separated and having a kind of spiritual amnesia, and however that's manifested for each of us, the water's never forgotten, right? It's known everything about us through time. And David, I think it was you and I that had some conversations about, with some of the glaciers melting, like you have to think about that ancient ice, right? Like what information is contained of the original Earth's records. It's going to be a treasure trove of information to tap into.
It's being released back into the water for co-creation to take hold, and therefore going back for us to create the new or the old, back to the new, to
Right.
once we were, to where we are going. That's all that information is being released in the water. And once, like you said, it has a memory of everything that's ever been taking place on the planet. And once it goes to its proper place, everything will be seated, and the time will come for those memories to be released, and for us to know and answer the call once again, which we are here answering that call, because we are needed,
Right.
once again.
We are needed. And us, with all the water we contain in our bodies and our resonance with each other, we're like right now in this moment messengers of that ancient wisdom. Like we're messages of the blessings and the gifts that water holds for all of us, that water, that living life force that's pulsing in everyone and everything. David, did you have something to share about that?
Yeah, there was a couple of things that came to me just there as you guys were talking. Is that number one is water operates in knowing, right? It facilitates that knowing that we're in. It's not even thinking. Like we can think of our own accord and just, and be that what it may, but in the knowing, right? So that single drop, when we say you are the ocean in the drop, just think of what that means. Okay, number one, it's internal, the water, when you're talking about the drop, right, as compared to the ocean. And then the connection to everything that's around you, right? So it gets it to where it's all within you, right? And so it's all within. It's all right there in that knowing, and facilitated through the water, right? Because this is what the water operates in. That one, not even just a drop, but to think of the molecular structure of the water molecule is like one of the smallest molecules that you can find. And it's very simple, but it's so connected. It's so clear. Like it's funny that water is clear, right? Well,
Right.
good water is. So,
Right.
it's very clear, and so it's a clear connection, right? It's a clear connect. It's all connected instantaneously outside of time with any other water of where you need it. That's like part of the power of the human being, right? That we embody in this. That's again facilitated by the water, and all the elements, but the water there, and and then that power of connection that we really have. But we're really just limited by this mind, right? And so it's amazing to think of, as we're trying to catch up now in our physical manifest body, or the earth even as well, is catching up to this potential that's always been there, through the water, and what that reflects. But just thinking, what I'm thinking is, as you think about these things, really think and feel into how this is in your body. It's the majority of what is your body is that all of these fibers, even the bones, are 30% water, right? And they're all specialized. They all have their own geometry. They all have their own shape, if you will. Right, special shape. And those things now are slowly, as we're shifting, those shapes are shifting as well, right? They're becoming more refined, right? They're able now to hold these higher energies that are coming in, and that to everybody. And so as we work with it, it's actually going to make it easier to shift, because for some of us that aren't working with it, that are not working with the water, so to speak, either consciously or unconsciously, it's going to become very difficult to remain as the earth is rising in energy. And it's raising its vibration. So it's actually facilitating now the changes physically. We have these ascension symptoms and things like this. They're just signs that we are shifting gradually and working with it. It's not always comfortable, but much needed. But it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
And David, I think it was you that talked about it. I didn't give it much thought until you said this, but water is one of the few substances that comes in every form, right? I mean, I guess you have.
Yeah, you have the solid as ice, and then you have it as the liquid, of course, is the water natural state, and then air, steam, it goes into a gas form, right? It's in the air that we breathe. That's what we call humidity. There's a humidity level, right? And if you're in zero humidity, it's very painful to breathe that in, because it's dry. It's taking the water out of you. So the air even wants the water. And Delsol and I were talking about fire and water, because we had come across some information about how fire and water are coming back together again, and what these are seeming to not coexist, but that only that seeming is in time, right?
Yes.
And that's what we got. That's what we talked about. Right?
Yes, we did.
Because what I saw is that if you're outside of time, there's a moment, right? If you could almost freeze it, that they're working together, because there's actually a friction. The heat, the feel of heat is actually the effect of the water, right? So the heat, yeah. So it's pretty interesting, because they're working together, even these seeming opposites, fire and water, fire and ice, if you would say that. Yeah.
Well, it's like what we're going through now as a consciousness, is like from the duality game into the singularity, from the cycle of separation into the 0 point, right? And these elements that you might think are, total polar opposites, are actually in union together. It's like the divine feminine and the divine masculine, really, right?
It's a part of maintaining balance, and the universe is coming back into balance to which it once was, back to the 0 point. Fire and water can coexist in the same plane without interfering, but coming together as a union. Same thing with the masculine and the feminine. You're coming into balance, you come into balance within yourself, on both aspects. And then when you do that, you see this beautiful union unfold, this beautiful you, me, it's coming out. And then we look at the fire and the water, and we're like, wait, those two can't mix. They've never mixed. You can't have one got to go without but then at the 0 point, you see them both there, and they're interconnected. Brings me back to the child movie, the Avatar, the series, the Airbender. The
Right.
Last Airbender, where you have all these elements that are together as one, back to the 0 point. And that show actually teaches us a lot about our avatar states, about the elements where you have to have that balance. And Gaia is coming back into that balance, back to that 0 point where everything will blend and maintain that 0 point, that oneness, the fire, air, water, and earth all becoming one to really transform into the newness, into the new conscious that's truly unfolding on Gaia right now. So it's back to that 0 point, and everything will be that 0 point. And it starts with the water, the memory of everything. It carries the memory of the universe. So it's back to that, maintain that calmness, that 0 point, and then you literally feel the vibration, the energy of the water. Some of us are good, very energetic, sensitive, where I can take a cup of water and I can feel, or I can go to the ocean and I can feel the energy just coming in, creeping and engulfing me, and I can feel that. Some of us have the ability to do that, and when we merge with that, at that 0 point, we get the newness and the codes and the remembrance of more of that ebb and flow that we carry within us. That's slowly awakening sometimes. It's just so hard. You talk about the symptoms, it puts us down, but sometimes we have no control over what we attain or what we need. It comes to us all in the divine timing aspect of when and where we're supposed to be at any given point in time.
Yeah, that's so true. And even the storms, if we call it that, on our world right now, just the things bubbling, all these words flushing to the surface, bubbling to the surface, it all has, water's a part of all of that.
Yes.
It's trying to help us find where things aren't clear and transparent and whole inside, right? So like you said, Del Sol, earlier in your journey, when you noticed, you were aware enough to see every time you went to the water, you were seeing storms, stormy seas. And it's so magical when we put on our soul vision and we begin to see all the messages of water, right? The messages all around us, that the
Yes.
universe is always mirroring to us our own mythology of, like, the hero's journeys that we're on, the lessons we're growing through, the expansions that are happening. And the elements come into these conversations with ourselves. But it's so amazing, the mirrors and the reflections and the illustrations of our magnificence that is in there. And for our listeners, I mean, I've certainly, many of us have had these dark nights of the soul. We've been through these experiences, and who knows, we know that there might be more storms, before we get to the paradise that many of us want to be living in bliss full time. But we trust that. And when the storms come now, for me, because of the storms I've already had, I know how to use the tools. I know how to look for the clues. I know how to listen for the messages. And we only get through storms like that and really reactivate those tools and have them in our divine satchels for the next time, is by going through it. No one gets a free pass on this earth plane. We're rediscovering what we always once were. And I think it's just extraordinary, and how water flows into our life. And I grew up at the beach. I don't live at the beach now, but I have that consciousness inside me. There's a connection with water. And I'll bring crystals into this conversation right now. I didn't know that I was going to do that, but I have my Andara crystals that I love. I love these crystals. And maybe that's something we want to talk about, is how do you charge your water? I don't know if you do that, Del Sol. I know David talks about that. And I know Masaru Emoto talked about that, is that, say people aren't having a great time and they are experiencing some stormy seas inside, is there a way to use water to, like, how Masaru Emoto did that, where you write the word calm, or you write the word gratitude, or you infuse your water with the energy that you're not feeling, but you're ready to drink it in, right? Can you,
Yes.
can either one of you speak to that? How you are consciously, put those intentions into the water that you drink?
Yeah, that's it right there, Marie. It's intention, because everything else is just it just follows that intention. Okay, so however you want to do it, if you want to write a word on your water, that's just giving something to the intention to grab onto, so to speak. So, but it's really just your intention to work. If you want to work, anyone can do it. You can do it with any water. Um, you can work with where you're at. But it's mainly just intention. I would say that studies have shown that like if you tap water, if it, especially fluoridated, just the industrialized water, is not really too workable. And so to really look into, if you're wanting to connect with your water, just clean it up with a carbon-based filter. I'd highly recommend. You can work with your bottled water and things of that like that. But I really think if you work with the and clean it up with a filter first, and just start working with it. Just speak into your intention into the water. For whatever you have, and then drink it, and then it brings it into your body. um, and yeah, so I mean, we could do that right now if you want to. We could do it together.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, and we can actually intend outside of space and time that whoever is listening to this, whoever comes across this, is experiencing it with us. Okay, and so I'm going to set the intention for that, and we're just going to do a water ceremony, very basic. Now you can do this with just a glass of water. I'll show you what I use right here. We just put it down right here. So this is my vessel for the water. You see that here? Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay,
Nice.
so I have some sound bowls, and I got into water, I think, from sound. When I come to think of it now, and you, Marie, you brought the connection to me, into my awareness, but it's really just a carrier of sound. So I use sound. The written word it has a vibration as well, but sound is more close to vibration itself. So I will just use the sound of my voice to infuse and code the water. And our intention today is to just honor the oneness that water facilitates, and the love that is that we all exist in together as one. And we will just do the Masaru Emoto blessing of water, which is just in 3, which is a great number. And we're just going to thank the water, and we're going to love the water, and then we're going to respect the water. Water, I thank you. Water, I love you. Water, I respect you. Water, I thank you. Water, I love you. Water, I respect you. Water, I thank you. Water, I love you. Water, I respect you. Thank you. So thank you. Namaste with the water. Om the water.
That,
And you
that
feel that?
alone was so calming. Like I felt like all the cells in my body we're resetting to that infusion of love and that gratitude and that respect and that honoring.
Yes, and that the water is connected. Your water is connected to my water. We're all connected in this, right?
Right? Yeah.
You feel that.
Oh, beautiful. And it's so accessible. It's like it's just, what did that take? Like a minute, 2 minutes, you know, out of our day, but we accessed an infinite time, you know, beyond time and space, where we are all connected. Um, yeah, and I was tapped in. It took me, actually, I have to say, I went back to the Lemurian waters. That's where my consciousness went. I could feel it. The color of that Youre crystal that I think I just saw, David, right?
That is,
Yeah, just like
that's,
that, the pristine waters of Lemuria, where our, you know, our golden ages still shine inside all of us, of our interconnectivity. And um, we are moving into those that more beautiful timeline again. And even
yes.
though it may look like some storms are going on the planet, emotionally, spiritually, in our consciousness as a humanity, and personally on all levels of our being, but it is to shake up and rattle out what really isn't who we truly are. And, you know, when we take these moments, it's so interesting. I just hadn't made that connection till we were on this call together, how the messages come through me with the conscious breathing, which is the element of air. And here we are consciously connecting with the blessings of water, right? And fire. We brought fire in here, and the earth, right? So we have these elements all coming together in the singularity of the 0 point that we all truly are. And if people listening to our conversation today, you can, this isn't hard work. Like, I'm not carrying 50-pound bags, you know, up and down the stairs. Like, sometimes we think that these connections are so hard, or we have to set up all these things, or we have to have a separate yoga studio, you know, somehow in our backyard to do all these rituals. It's
Right.
really that simple. It's really that accessible. And it's just your breath and your intention and your connection with the elements. And there is something magical. Um, I was just thinking as I just said that, you know, David, you gifted me one of those VitaJewel um, water bottles. I don't know. Do you know about those, Delsol? Well, it's a clear cylindrical water bottle, but at the base of it, it has, you can get different ones that have different crystals inside them. And I've never been, I mean, I'm disclosing this in a podcast, but I've never been a big water drinker. I'm kind of been more like a camel, right? Maybe I've had too many lifetimes of sinking under the sea, and I've had so much water in my system that I have felt like I didn't need to drink much water this lifetime. But I really extract a lot of maximum water from my food, and I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables and things. But anyway, when David gifted me this VitaJewel, which was such a blessing, it changed how I connect with water. It just made it so much more conscious for me. And it just made it beautiful. Like, I don't know that anybody would think about that, but every time I take a sip of water from my VitaJewel, I feel the energies of grace and the energies of beauty. And there's a company, it's called VitaJewel. People can look it up, and I'll try and remember to put that link in the description. But it's another way of like charging your water, infusing your water with the intention that the crystals hold, and just being more conscious. And I can tell you, because they're really glass water bottles, because it came from David as a gift, I'm also much more conscious with the bottle, right? Because I don't want it to fall. It just makes me more conscious, and it takes me into the present moment. And I'm much more intentional and it makes me really appreciate water. And any steps we can take in our life that are just those small, little vibrational, intentional steps can create a greater volume of peace and joy and calm in our lives. And it doesn't have to be these big rituals or, you know, 20 different steps, or you have to go out and buy all these tools. It's inside us. I mean, we have everything we need inside us to connect with water like this, and to connect with conscious breathing like this. So
I
that
think the
was
whole
beautiful.
I think the whole thing is we sometimes tend to overcomplicate things. And when it boils down to it's as simple as just batting your eyelashes or just breathing. Everything is the simplicity of it all. It's basically here.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to remember, just keeping it plain and simple, not overcomplicating the whole thing. You know, like you said, you don't have to go outside, build a new studio, do this. It's just as simple as what we just did.
Right. Exactly.
Simple. It's simple.
Yeah. And appreciation is like, I know some people talk about it, but it's another thing that I think we either take for granted or we just forget to engage. And there's something about appreciating, like you thanking the water, David, like where we all tuned into that appreciation, that deep connection through appreciation for the water. And think about how much water on our planet has not been appreciated, including the water in our own bodies. So, when we're in that energy and that frequency, that vibration of appreciation, right? We're weaving the oneness together. We're weaving love through the molecules of water that's everywhere, all around us and inside us. So it,
Yes.
We're,
it is, it's
sur-
magical.
we're surfing the waves of change.
We are surfing the waves of change. We are, right? Right? And this is kind of a wild hair, but I would just say, speaking of water, have you guys heard of the movie My Octopus Teacher? No? You guys should check it out. And any of our listeners, I just recently saw that. I don't watch much TV, but I think it's on Netflix. And it's a
Yeah, I've heard you were telling me about that.
oh,
Yeah,
was
so
I
I
telling
need to see. Yes,
it's
I
worth
need to see it.
seeing because this I'll just say for our listeners briefly that it's somewhat the story that we've covered today, in a way that there's a guy, he's a filmmaker as in his profession, and for years he had this passion for filmmaking, and I don't know, he just hits kind of a wall with himself, I guess probably in the last few years. And I think he is from Africa, South Africa. And is it Cape Horn? There's a cape where like the water is really, like, I think they get pretty wild there, right? And when he hits this brick wall and he kind of goes into a depression and loses his spark, basically, right? His flame and his passion for his work, and he's kind of getting increasingly angry, and the storms are brewing inside, right? He remembers that as a child he loved doing sort of, deep sea or snorkeling in this one. I can't remember, there's a name for this place. It's kind of really stormy waters that you wouldn't think you want to go dive in to have a little swim. Okay. But he does. That was like his happy place. And so he, his marriage is kind of struggling, his relationship with his son is struggling, and he goes to this place that he must have been a family cottage or something on the shore, and he starts going out in the water, and it's like, I think it's like chilling cold water. Like it's really really cold water, and he goes and he snorkels. He's got no, he doesn't have any oxygen packs on or anything. He's not scuba diving, he's snorkeling out there. And in his journeys, after he goes out, and he goes out like once a week to start, but when he goes out there he sees some creature in the water that he's never seen before, and lo and behold, it ends up being this octopus. And he's so fascinated by it, and he's so challenged in his regular life. He's just like, well, what if I went every day? Like, what if I went out in the water every day instead of once a week? And I went and I visited and I learned about, and he just felt alive again, basically. And he's in the water and he's having this connection with this octopus. And he goes out, he starts doing that. And for nearly a year, essentially, he goes out and he films himself out there in the water on his own, making this connection with this amazing being. And they develop this relationship almost to the point that the octopus looks for him and he looks for her. And it's just this amazing story. But you also see all this beautiful underwater photography and filmmaking, and the connection and the oneness and the interspecies connection. Like, it's a little bit of all that we're talking about, and just the gratitude and the way he had that awareness of the connection and what was magically unfolding and how it brought him back to life. It basically, water is life. It gave him life force again. That whole experience.
Sustenance.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Sustenance. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So that's the film, My Octopus Teacher, that comes through towards the end of our
Definitely look at that.
day. But there's, this is the magic. Is like, we never know, like, we didn't plan a water blessing or My Octopus Teacher and all these podcasts. These are it's an organic process of people who podcast here at Whole Soul Mastery and that I share in Color the Magic. It's that ebb and flow. It's that energy of life. It's that pulsing of source energy inside us. And I love every single podcast because spirit is moving us, right? The pulse of the universe, the light of the universe is moving inside us and bringing these conversations to anybody else who might enjoy these energy surfings and these sharings in all the forms of water that we're talking about today. But really, it's just the magnificence and the magic of the world and creation that is us, right? All the records of that perfection and magnificence is us. And I think we're living in such exciting times, and we are surfing the waves of change right now in a big, big way. And yet we can, like that guy, went into the wilds. I mean, it was wild in the ocean where he goes every day. Like, if I think about taking a swim, that's not what I visualize, right? But this guy like brought it back to life, and all of us find that in our own ways. We recharge, we reset, but just by loving our water and being intentional and thanking it and being grateful for the gifts of what that is, really healing the planet in the state it's in is not that hard. It's just people coming back to simplicity of being aware of the magic that life is and listening to the pulse of those frequencies and connecting with the elements. So I just want to thank you both for being here. Is there anything each one of you wants to share as we close this out today?
Thank you once again, Marie, for it's always an honor being here with you on these amazing subjects. And I love watching your podcast. So I continue to learn and grow from them all. So thank you once again for having me here with you, and also David as well. Continue to working together with you guys and creating in this co-creation of this new as we find our new vibration, our new frequency. We're coming to even greater gifts. So we journey here together.
Thank you. Thank you. Just your light really just, it does. Our light lights up worlds. But when I connect with both of you, I just feel that light emanating from each of you, which is something that you've reconnected with. You've consciously done the work and gone through the storms to be here present in your light today. And I'm so, so grateful. It's so joyful, right? These reunions of souls, that's what these are. These are reunions of souls.
Reading old friends once again.
Right? Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Soul family coming back together, right?
Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, David.
And it's a real honor to be here. I just thank you for inviting me on this call. It's been a joy to talk about water. And it's funny, I was thinking because it was your connection to source or to your guidance that brought the connection to me. And then it was really deep. It was very deep. And then it's really how I really sense a deeper connection through it, and just in such a marvelous way. So thank you for that. And also that anybody that's doing their work, that's doing their inner work, right? And it's such a joy and an ease. It's just, you're serving the water. You're actually serving everybody on earth by doing that and loving yourself in this way. Loving the water is just loving yourself, and loving yourself in that way is loving all of humanity, and really does benefit all of us. So thank you, both of you, for what you do. And everybody that's listening to this, thank you for what you're doing. Or just taking the time to thank the water and love the water, and to love yourself, and just to love your life, and just the love that's here, present with us, and that hand is really makes a big change, bigger than we can really conceive of. So thank you so much for that. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, it's multidimensional change, right? It really ripples into the ethers in ways that we can't conceive, but we can feel it. We can feel it and we can know it. And I want to thank our listeners for journeying with us here in this podcast. And I invite you to go to wholesoulmastery.com for other inspirational messages there. And our videos are always at Whole Soul Mastery on YouTube. And I'm posting now at Color the Magic on YouTube. And I want to just thank you. Thank you for giving your presence, your attention, and tuning in to the hidden messages in water, the blessings of water, and allowing yourself to feel that it is that simple, that that connection is so accessible. It's right inside you, and we have all the tools we need inside us already. So in whatever ways you feel called to connect with the blessings and the grace of water, we invite you to tune into that magic inside you. And until next time, blessings. Namaste.